Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Independent Truckers, right here at the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network with your host, John Grosvenor, Sean Mitchell. We have a special guest on tonight, Officer Brent Hoover. How you gentlemen doing?
Good.
How you doing tonight, John? Brent?
Making it?
Pretty good.
All right, so go ahead.
Before we get started, one thing I'd like to do, John. Probably not too many people hear this, but big congratulations goes out to Brian Kelly this week, University of Notre Dame football coach. Surpassed Newt Rockney for the most wins at Notre Dame.
Oh, nice. Another record being set, right?
Brian's big win over Wisconsin this weekend put him right up there at the top.
Excellent. All right. So
and next week he goes up against his former alma mater, Cincinnati.
So you're going to kill it there too? You're
Brian
expecting?
was the coach at Cincinnati before he came to Notre Dame.
Oh. All right, so what else we got going on? Well, I guess it's trucker shutdown week. Supposed to be a lot of truck drivers.
What news did you hear on this, John?
Well, as of yet, I have heard that things didn't turn out as planned. A lot of guys put their intentions out on social media, and law enforcement was informed, and some of the things that they had said was not conducive to the law enforcement environment. They didn't appreciate some of the ideologies, I guess, of the shutdown. I myself have heard people talk about putting trucks sideways in the interstate, blocking the interstate, stopping traffic on the interstates. They were strategizing to do so. And specific locations, major arteries and things like that, where they could hourglass or close off all the interstates in one location. Like if you're in the middle of Chicago, then and you go downtown Chicago and block off what's 55, 94, 90, and so on and so forth, and people can't get through, then you pretty much cause gridlock. So that got out there.
Now, go ahead, John.
That got out there, and I know that Ohio law enforcement officers had gotten word of it. They prevented some of the organizers from even getting out of their trucks. They actually blocked them in, according to one report I've gotten, where he couldn't even make or attend his own slow roll or shutdown. A lot of it, I think, pertained to slow rolls. Most of it. Some of it was going to be shutdowns. So there's certain do's and don'ts when you're going to be demonstrating against government policy or certain policies of government that you don't like. And one of them would be not to shut down the interstate highways. There actually are laws against that on state levels. There may be laws against that on federal levels. I'm not sure yet. We know certain groups, I would call them terrorist groups myself, BLM and Antifa, I would see them falling under the definition of domestic terrorism, even though our lovely federal government will not seem to see it that way, and they allowed them to get away with that last year. But they had government favor and seem to have gotten away with it. Also falls into a situation where when states enforce laws, and whether they decide they're going to enforce the law or allow them to shut the interstates down. In this case, they didn't seem to favor truck drivers too much. But Mr. Officer Brent Hoover decided to come on tonight and talk with us a little about these circumstances. He understands and knows quite a bit about this in the state of Indiana. And in fact, we had some slow rolls that happened a couple of years ago. I believe Black Smoke Matters was hosting those, and Officer Hoover was quite familiar with what was going on then. Would you like to start there, Brent, and talk a little bit about what went on then and how things went down?
Absolutely. Exactly a couple of years ago, they decided they wanted to do basically a rolling protest in and around I-465 around Indianapolis. The group did overall. I give them about a minus. I mean, they got with us. They worked with us as far as, hey, here's what we're wanting to do. Here's what we're definitely wanting to avoid, and it just made the whole process pretty smooth. and we felt like there was no hiccups that day. There was no being in Indianapolis that time of day. Yeah, traffic's going to stink, but as far as what was involved, that many trucks, I believe it was close to 100 or so trucks participated, and we didn't see too many issues with traffic. But that was something that was fairly new, and like with anything, when you get large groups together, it's only as good as your weakest link. So there was a little bit of riffle there at the end, but we got it taken care of fairly quickly, and they got to do the protest, and we kept the roadways open, and that's the big thing. And I just want to kind of stress on folks that I'm not, and you guys, we worked together and spoke a lot, and I believe you guys can attest to the fact that I'm not telling people not to protest. I'm not telling people that they don't, can't voice their opinion. I'm just saying, think about how you're going to do it. And like I said, and you guys kind of nailed it on the head with the riots and the protests. We saw last year a lot of states, a lot of cities that put into better, stronger laws against people blocking traffic. And we saw how much, they thought, if we go out and block the interstate, we'll get our point across. Well, how many times over did we see it didn't matter what the group was doing? If there was a group out there blocking or hindering traffic flow or causing that, it was a negative thing. So not only, just think about that. If you're wanting to get your point across, try to do it in a way that's not going to come across as a negative thing. And here in the state of Indiana, we're real big on, we don't want a roadway shut down because of secondary crashes. Traffic that doesn't know what's going on abruptly coming to a stop, and then you're out there, you're trying to get point A across, and all that's on the evening news as well. Trucks were stopped, which caused the traffic back up, and a busload of people were, rear-ended by another truck, and then everything you worked hard to accomplish is now basically watered out in just a negative thing. So just be mindful. If you're going to go out and do something, just be mindful of the bigger impact, and try to think about that. And definitely, if you're wanting to get something organized, get with local law enforcement, get with the local government, and try to do it in the best a lot of communication. So that's just kind of my tips on what people need to do if they want to organize or to do something as far as law enforcement involvement.
That's a good
thing that I noticed. The one thing that I noticed in the last time we tried something like this, there was a lot of people that were coinciding with the local news stations, and they were actually working to try to get their point across that way. And at the same time, there was very minimal from what John described tonight. I think that was probably one of the biggest mistakes, is not getting your newscasters involved to the point to where it could have been done, made it look like it was more of a peaceful, ongoing operation.
Oh, absolutely, and definitely, utilizing media and hoping they get the right point across is definitely something to think about and work with.
So, I mean, as well as I do, our local channel there, Brent, they've got enough room in there for about 6 bobtails that could have pulled in there at any time.
I was just doing a sound check here. I've been getting word that we sound a little muffled on the feed. I don't know what's going on with that. You had a good point in regard to getting with your local law enforcement and coordinating with them, because they're really not your enemy in this regard. A lot of officers appreciate you exercising your Second Amendment rights. In 2017, when we went to D.C., I met a lot of officers that were standing out there. It was kind of interesting because when I was walking up, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was still dark. and all these trucks were just mysteriously lined up on Constitution Avenue overnight. And so as I'm walking up there, I was getting ready to snap some pictures and stuff. And some of the officers were standing there looking a little bewildered and started asking me questions about why the truck's here, what's going on. And when I was explaining things to them, they were agreeing with me. They were saying, I agree with what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying. We got rights as people, and they infringe upon our rights. A lot of officers understand that, and they agree with us on that. And they're more than willing to help us exercise our Second or First Amendment rights. And I went right to second there, but I meant First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, and to peaceably assemble.
Absolutely, and of course, you kind of mentioned the Second Amendment, which we can stay and talk for hours on that, but the vast majority of law enforcement, we understand, and that's what we took an oath to uphold that Constitution. And if somebody's out there wanting to protest, by gosh, that's their right. But there's just certain little things that when we say things, I don't want people thinking, well, they're hindering their, no, I'm just trying to point you in the right direction so you don't get in trouble, because whatever you're protesting, and yeah, a lot of it, we get it. So, reaching out, working with them, giving them a heads up, hey, here's what we got planned, we want to work with you guys as much as you can. And the worst thing you can do is pop up and surprise, and then when there's that lack of breakdown of communication, that's when, the basic questions don't get answered. What are your intentions? What do you plan to do? Okay, you can do this, but you can't do that because of this reason, just things of that nature.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Slow rolls with leaving the left lane open is a great strategy, I think, as long as you're doing the minimum speed limit on the interstate. You're following the letter of the law, actually, and you're making a banner out of your truck. It's a great way to have signage. Just leave the left lane open for emergency vehicles and passing, and the more people that are passing, the more people are seeing your reason for doing a slow roll. So I think that's one of the greatest strategies that they come up with.
Absolutely.
Like you said, communication, that's key. Coordinating with your law enforcement officers. So I'm still getting that word muffled. I do not understand what's going on with the system these days. I'm starting to think it might be they keep changing social media with Facebook and stuff, and I'm starting to think that their modifications might be doing weird things. I noticed YouTube's been kind of wonky. But anyway, in regard to communication, I had another thought on that. Now I've lost it. It was that. A lot of times you want to know your numbers. If you got 50 people coming there, that's the sort of thing that they're looking for you to communicate. Know your numbers. Give them an idea what your plans are. If they can plan on 50 people. If we're not even just talking about slow rolls, but if you're going to go to DC, contact the Metro DC. What is that? Metro DC or DC. I got the Capitol Police. Contact the Capitol Police and let them know. If you have somebody that I know, I have a friend that's been on our shows before, Dave. And he's willing to do the handshake deal, which is a really nice thing to have a law enforcement officer reach out to another law enforcement officer because they speak the same language. But so it helps to get your numbers together. It helps to have an idea what you're doing, your strategies and stuff, and that way they can be best prepared for you. Knowing your rules on protesting, a lot of guys don't understand. They think you can just block up roads. You go to DC and just close off roads. And truth of the matter is, a little research will tell you. You got to leave sidewalks open for other passerbys. You got to leave streets open so people can use them and utilize them. If you start closing off roads without permits, that's when they start running you out. That's when you're going to have conflicts. Sorry. I seem to have a frog in my throat tonight. Seems like we had some other issue. Sean, what else was there?
Well, and I think the one main thing that we have to look at this point, John, is, I have to give them credit. They tried to do something, and they tried to make awareness but it just seems like it's the common denominator of the same mistake.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. What happened 2 years ago? This was very, very similar. A lot of things that they planned were similar as what it was 2 years ago. They just didn't organize as well as far as reaching out to some law enforcement officers. But then again, 2 years ago, some people tried not to do that. We know they got shut down in Chicago, just like they got shut down in Ohio this year. One person did bring up a good point I thought was interesting. Looking around on social media, and that was if you made the papers because your talk was so aggressive that the law enforcement had to balk up on you and try to shut you down before you did something, then you're getting your message out in media. But there again, it's like Officer Hoover said, is that the message you want to give out media? You know, we heard one of the organizers make a statement that they brought it up to him about what if somebody dies? You know, what if we block up the interstate and an ambulance can't get through and somebody dies? Or as Officer Hoover pointed out, what if you sandwich a vehicle in there because some truck driver didn't understand what was going on and he rear-ended them and crushed them? And they died. And his response was, well, sometimes you're going to have casualties. And I'm thinking to myself, is this the message we want to send to the public? We don't care about your well-being? I mean, we're truck drivers. And Scotty did a video earlier today explaining that. You know, as truck drivers, we hold the higher ground. We have an interest for public safety.
Here's why I have a problem with that statement, John. Is because I remember, you know, I come from fourth generation in my family. And a lot of times, your drivers were actually being the first responders to the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, the driver was the first one on site to help.
And they were heading for the truck. Of course, back then, there was no cell phone, no internet, but they were heading to the next truck stop to make a phone call so help could arrive.
Well, yeah, also, you know, we used to have the old standard in trucking that if you were in a situation where lives are going to be lost and you were behind the wheel of a big truck, you would ditch the truck. You would purposely take the truck to the ditch to avoid taking somebody else's life with the truck. Putting your own life at risk, by the way, but that's kind of like an old trucker's code, you know, and I remember years ago when Steve Owens' son, Colin Owens, he unfortunately perished in a truck accident, but that driver was attempting to do just that. He was taking the ditch, and the young man turned in front of him and took his way out, you know, intruded upon his way out. So he ended up hitting him unintentionally, but that's what the driver was doing. He was doing exactly what he was taught to do, trained to do, and what truck drivers were supposed to do, and that's look out for the well-being of the general public. And we need to share that message. We need to have that message in any kind of demonstration, in any kind of rally that we perform, that we care about the public, because we want the public to sympathize. We want the public to understand our concerns. We don't want to turn them off. We don't want to turn them against us, and that's exactly what we do when we create an adverse environment. So, and yes, Susan, that's exactly it. It's the idea of this is to give people ideas that what you want to think about, what you want to perform if you do a rally, if you do a demonstration, or a protest of some sort.
So, I mean, again, if they ever decide to do this around Indianapolis, Brent, would you be the one to call to get things organized for this?
Well, believe it or not, I'm pretty low on the totem pole. What I would do is, you know, if you do want to do something in the Indianapolis area that's CMV related, is contact our division and speak with our division commander, and then he can get the ball rolling as far as getting in contact with who needs being contacted and getting things organized. And then, like I said, then that opens up communication, and then state police can communicate with the traffic control center, and just, you know, and make it to where it turns out and we can be as safe as possible. But yeah, if something like that, because the worst thing you can do is just surprise, and then when there's surprises, that's when things aren't communicated, and when things aren't communicated, it doesn't turn out well. So,
well,
as we found out in Indianapolis, I mean, I did headed all the way in from Lexington, Kentucky, to be at that rally, And from what I have seen towards the tail end, except for the tail end like you did, Brent, everything went pretty well according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody minded their P's and Q's, and we stayed 55 in the right 2 lanes.
Yep. Yep. And like I said, I gave it about an A- performance. I mean, everybody got to participate that wanted to participate. We didn't have any traffic issues. We got everybody on and off, and yeah. So, and like I said, and I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but on talk about working together and everything else, did you guys hear about the convoy, the trucks that saw a vehicle hit the outer berm wall and pulled over? And we basically, one of the driver's wives started CPR. They alerted me.
Yes.
I got there.
I remember that.
CPR and saved the passerby's life. So, that was something that through our teamwork, hey, working together, hey, trooper, there's a car, so.
Yeah, everybody was hit. We were on the second round, and everybody was heading for the meeting place. And, yeah, I remember that now.
Yep. So.
Kind of funny, the protest turned into a life-saving moment.
Exactly. So.
My understanding was when you showed up at that, Brent, you'd already got 2 or 3 text messages about what was going on, and there you are already doing what you need to do.
Exactly, and just the quick response and being able to say, hey Hoover, here's what we got at this location. I was able to immediately get ambulance, fire, EMS started, and then and get other units en route. And like I said, the fire department got there, and we were able to get the guy revived, and it was a good group effort. And again, that was just through the communication prior to the event. So, so if anything, somebody's still walking around, running around because of the truck convoy. There wouldn't have been additional troopers, and I certainly wouldn't have been in Indianapolis that day. So, and neither would that gal that helped pull them out and start. So like I said, I mean, you try to do the right thing, and it pays off, and something good comes out of it. So
it does. There was one issue too that we didn't bring up is misinforming law enforcement. Last thing you want to do is tell them you're going to do something, but do something opposite to it or contrary to it. That'll kind of, Brent, wouldn't that kind of get somebody shut down quick?
Yes. If in that misinforming, and we get it. There's going to be that one person that decides, what, I don't like this, I'm going to do this. But if you set something up and you say, hey, we're going to be meeting here at this time, this date, here's what we're wanting, and law enforcement agrees to work with you on it as far as, make sure it goes down safe, and then you turn around and break that trust, it's going to be not as easy. So, less working with you and more just, what, you broke it, so let's take enforcement action or do this or do that. So, yeah.
Quite often that'll get permits.
Do we have any callers for Brent right now?
Not at the moment. No, not at the moment.
And like I said, if there's anybody listening, if they got any other truck-related questions, ELD stuff, load procurement, like I said, I'm willing to lighten the mood up a little bit, talk about some other stuff too. So.
Well, nobody's really put any questions in Facebook on it or YouTube, so. What else we got here?
Well, quite frankly, I like to know what they did with the oil truck, because good luck buying any oil Delvac Oil in the state of Kentucky.
So what's the deal with the Delvac?
I don't know. I stopped at 3 places today. They
Oh.
don't have Delvac.
Huh.
Love's come right out and told me they're having problems getting the oil truck in.
Gee.
They're having all they had was their brand.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. People have been asking me if there's been shortages on the shelves and stuff, and in a lot of regards, you do see some shortages or stuff. But I've noticed that the wide aisles. I don't go to the store much anymore. I avoid it any chance I can. But I've noticed when I've gone into stores that the aisles have gotten wider. And what I think the trick is to get rid of some shelves, widen the aisles, so then what you do have, it makes the shelves look full, or they are full because you got less shelves.
Yep.
But Scott Spencer says our shelves are full, John.
Well, they are. There's a lot less of them being full. It's like Tracy telling me she went to the grocery store and back in the last year, and they didn't have any meats and stuff as far as steaks and things go. They were putting pepperoni and sausages in the meat aisle, where we normally get steaks and chickens and pork. And
We're not going to start that pepperoni joke now, are we?
I'm not familiar with the pepperoni joke. Do you know it?
Okay, we'll talk later.
Okay, well, with all the jokes, you did have one good one earlier today, didn't you?
Oh, you mean about the lady and the young man?
I think that was the one.
Oh yeah. So this boy tells his mom, says, "Daddy said I should give my feet up to this other woman." The mother says, "Yes, that's a good idea. I'm proud of you." And then he says, "But Mommy, I was the one sitting on Daddy's lap."
I thought that was a pretty good one. He told it a little differently earlier, but yeah, it was a pretty good joke the way he told it earlier.
We ain't going into Burger King and Dairy Queen. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, we'll leave that one alone. We will definitely leave that one.
It's not my fault Dairy Queen got pregnant because Burger King didn't cover his Whopper.
Somehow you got it out there. All right, I'm trying to think of anything else, but I think we covered everything on that as far as the do's and don'ts of.
Well, I mean, and all joking aside, I've seen a lot less today in social media events about what happened yesterday versus what I saw the last 3 days. Everybody was fired up. They were ready to go. They were ready to do things. But once again, I think there was just a case of designated leadership.
Oh, they lost the wind in their sails, man. Brett, one of the hot topics right now in the legislative process is 18-year-olds crossing state lines. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that. How do you feel about 18-year-olds doing international travel, CMB travel? Interstate. Sorry.
What was that? You kind of broke up. I didn't hear what you said.
The question is how do you feel about 18-year-old truck drivers crossing state lines, doing interstate travel?
Oh, okay. Well, I have mixed feelings on that, and let me tell you why. Depending on how they're trained and where their background comes from, I tell you what, a few years back, I met a 19-year-old kid. He was truck driving in the state of Indiana on an intrastate CDL, and I stopped doing inspection on him. He owned the truck, he owned the trailer, it was his company, and there was another name on the registration, and he said that was his dad's name because the bank would not loan him the money unless he had a co-signer. And this kid was squared away. I mean, 19, 20 years old, owned the truck, owned the trailer, was making payments, out there doing this. He was squared away. I would have felt just fine having him run from New York to California. Now, with that being said, I've met some 30-year-old drivers that I've stopped and interacted with them and could have swore I was dealing with a 12-year-old child. I think, and it just, pitching fits over this or that, or, whining about this or that, and it's just like, dude, you signed up for a CDL, you went through the training, you became the professional over-the-road driver, and I swear I'm arguing with my 12-year-old, over something that you shouldn't be arguing about. So, and then there's a lot of kids that 19, 20 years old come out of the military, got a lot of truck, experience. So, I mean, it's only going to be as good as who you're putting behind the wheel. So, whether it be the training or what their background is my only drawback. So, I mean, I've seen mixes of both. So,
I know last week we had Kim Coleman on the show, and she had some ideas that she wants to bring up from having it at a vocational level at the high school, which I think is a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That don't mean they get behind the wheel of a truck. That means they get a little vocational knowledge.
Well, and even starting them out vocationally in high school and getting them to where as soon as they graduate from high school at 18 years old, they got their interstate-based CDL, and get them the experience staying within their state. And then once they turn 21, give them that interstate, so that way when they go to these bigger companies or whatever, they've got that 2 years of road experience under their belt, and I'm a big advocate for vocational. If you can knock something out, I know plenty of my friends that own businesses, trucking companies, stuff like that, and have 0 college degrees because they're out there doing it, So,
well, and I know Senator Braun's real big. I know Senator Braun's real big right now on. He wants to do something like that because I know. Well, if I remember right, doesn't Vincennes University they offer some kind of a training program?
Yes, they do. I've worked with them in their program before, had them come out to the scales with their trainees and to show them how a scale facility works and what we're looking for, and to run them through a mock DOT inspection and kind of make a rolling field trip of it out in a day, and that goes a long way. In fact, yesterday I was at the scales and had a truck come in and blew through the scales and was like, what the heck is he doing? Went chased me down, and I was like, bud, what the heck are you doing? He's like, I'm so sorry. He goes, I've never, I just started with this company, and I had no clue what I needed to do, and I said, okay, and it was just, he basically was like, they hired me, and a week later, I'm in the truck, by myself, and it's like, I mean, was I confident that he could control the truck, drive the truck? Yes, but just simple little things of, okay, on this route, you're going to go through, and here's what you need to do to drive through the scales properly, to not get chased down, and, so yeah, I think companies, I know they're busy and they just want to hurry up and get drivers out there, but if they just take a few more days and work with these drivers and show them, and again, reach out to your local state police, local commercial division, and say, hey, could we come out and have you show us this, or could you show our drivers this, or we're going to have a safety meeting, would you like to come out and talk to our drivers, and just put that out there in such a good, back and forth, it's invaluable. And now hopefully we're getting through COVID and stuff, we can get back out, and that's what I really like, is working with these companies, working with these drivers, and just giving them that opportunity to ask questions and to go about it that way.
Yeah, this thing really does have, it's muffled badly. I wonder what's going on with this.
We're getting complaints on our sound, John.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, I guess I mean, you can understand what you guys are saying, but it's just not coming through very, I don't understand why it's doing that. I'll look at some stuff here while you guys continue on, I think. So it's kind of
surprised. I'm in Renfrew Valley, and I can usually get pretty good reception here. So
now you guys on the system, I got the soundboard here. You guys coming through my speakers sound great, and that's why I'm kind of confused why it's not picking up properly in the system. And I don't know if it's the player, if there's an issue with the player on that end of it, or what's going on.
Well, it could be a lot of variables. I mean, it could be a lot of variable reasons. So anyway, Brent, I've been threatening to stop in and see you, but I've got one little problem right now, and I've been after the mechanic to try to fix it. I had a pan gasket that started leaking, and because they took the pan off, I had them put a new one on it, and had them torque it down to specs, and the damn thing's leaking again. So as soon as I get that fixed, we'll see if we can. We may make it. We're going to do that video yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just let me know, and I can make sure I'm there. And like I said, anybody listening, which it's kind of funny. We're down to one other inspector there to Terre Haute Scales, and he'll hit me up all the time. Go, man, some guy stopped here and was asking if Hoover's here. And I'm like, well, if I knew somebody come through, I'd probably make an effort to get down there. But no, just, and if you're through the area and need a safe spot to stop for the night, pull in. We're not going to mess with you. That's always the rumor that, I ain't going to park in a still house because they'll come out and inspect me. No. And to be honest, I've only done that with one truck, and that's because when I pulled in the lot in the morning, I saw he had a blown tire. I mean, this thing was missing the center section. It was totally blown, and watched him basically fire up the truck, and 2 minutes later put it in gear and started to drive, and I flagged him down, and he's like, I didn't even see that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I watched him. He didn't even do a pre-trip. So yeah. Other than that, I'm not going to,
The main reason I pushed that with the state of Indiana 2 years ago, Brent, and I didn't know that you were offering parking, but the scales up at Lowell, Indiana, were notorious for running the drivers off that scale lot, and the drivers were parking down the road on the get-off ramps, and here comes the state police, and now there's hard feelings, because then all them guys are trying to get out of Chicago, and those truck stops are filling up between 5 and 7 o'clock at night now.
Absolutely.
So that was, and I really didn't make that public till tonight, but I got hold of Senator Braun's aide, and that's how we got that set up.
Well, absolutely, and a couple years ago, we really started working a lot closer with the IMCA, the Indiana Motor Truck Association, and especially when the parking started really being an issue, and it was kind of brought up with our division, hey, we got all these open spots, and then it was kind of said, a couple emails, hey, if we've got the room and you're not actively needing the spot, don't worry about it. So, around that time, maybe the cards kind of shuffled in together, but yeah, there was that bigger push of, hey, if we've got the open room, let's use it. So, exactly.
Well, and Ohio's excuse was if anything happened on that lot, they could be considered liable. And I look at it this way. It's kind of like what happened way back when in another story, but basically the short story is it's hazardous sport. Well, if you park there and you jump out of your truck and you twist your ankle, That's not the state of Indiana's fault. That's your fault.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, and the only pet peeve we have is, you know, don't throw trash out the parking lot, you know. And I picked up my share of poop bags and other crap out of that parking lot, and I told that other guy, if I see someone shut something out, I'm just gonna go out, get their information, write them a ticket, and that's that. But you know, come on, it's like, you know.
But there are
you know.
There are garbage cans readily available, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Oh, I figured that out, Sean. You guys sound much, much better now.
Did you figure
Awesome.
it out?
Get to the end of it, and then we get it working right.
Hey, that's usually the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, right?
I keep telling you, a creative lab sound card will fix that.
No, that wasn't the issue at all. I'm actually writing something down here for, you know how you have to do a pre-check, pre-inspection on your truck before you leave to make sure everything's operable and safe, right? Well, apparently I got to do pre-checks before I do shows, so now I got to write stuff down to make sure I got my show right. Because something got changed in my settings, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because technology is like that. You have everything set up like it's supposed to be, and somehow something gets changed. But that's the way it goes. You know, that's what makes autonomous trucks going to be so great, because, you know, they're all relying on technology, and if you can't rely on technology on something as simple as a home computer, how in the hell are you going to rely on a truck to drive itself down the road?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brent, let me ask you a couple questions, just your opinion, and if you don't want to get involved, we understand. So I read an article this week where a boatload of Massachusetts state troopers walked off the job because they refused to take the vaccine.
I read that. I read that too.
What's
And
Indiana's stance?
so far they've not said anything about that. They've still left it up to our personal choice. We're all.
I think Hoover was pretty adamant it was up to a person's choice.
Yeah, and I think, and coming from family members in the medical field and seeing them impacted and stuff, it's definitely a roller coaster, that's for sure. But as of right now, I've been told it is still my personal choice. So.
Well, and then the other article I read was our famous friends at the ATA are now pushing even more for autonomous trucks. And you and I have had this conversation. Yeah, you and I have had this conversation before. But I'd like our listeners to know, what is your actual feeling on autonomous trucks right now?
And this is just me, Brett Hoover, personal opinion. I don't think that's the save all, end all. I'm not a big fan of the idea personally.
If we could get a hold of Senator Braun again, because we've been having some problems lately due to the fact of everything going on in the world, and, well, we just won't point no fingers, but I think we all get the general idea. We kind of want to get something set up like Missouri tried to do, where there's no Class 5, that's what they're called, with no driver in them. It's called a Class 5 autonomous. Missouri was trying to get it set up that no such thing could happen in that state.
Yeah.
There had to be a driver in the truck.
That wouldn't be much of a driver, it'd be a monitor.
Well, you know, my big thing is, say this autonomous truck's driving down the road and it blows a tire. and that thing decides, okay, let's pull off. Is it going to properly get off the lane of travel? Is it going to stop on a bridge? Is it going to stop on, or I don't know. It leaves a lot of questions.
Well, and Leland Schmidt had actually brought up a couple of real, actually good questions. One that particularly sticks in my mind is the fact that what if one's going down the road and it actually busts the wheel seal?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah.
How are you as an inspector going to be able to determine that when that truck rolls across the scale?
Yeah. Yeah. And
he's going to know because it's glowing red. The hub is glowing red when it's rolling across.
Yeah. And how do you get it shut down? Will we have a magic button or something that we can push to kill that truck?
That within itself.
I don't know. I don't know. I seen a brake drum the other day. It was almost white.
Yeah.
White.
And I've been along the road.
So that within itself, though, if you think about it, with autonomy, is with hacking and stuff, or things that can go wrong with computers. I mean, if you can't just turn off a key and shut off the truck, you need some sort of override with the power system that you can actually kill the whole power system so the truck shuts down. Because if they ever take off on you and it just accelerates for no good reason at all because it had a computer malfunction, you don't have any control of it. If the steering mechanisms, which will be powered by motors now, if they are acting wonky and not doing what they're supposed to do, and you can't control the vehicle, you got to at least be able to kill it.
Well, it's like Edward Stevenson bringing up, how safe is that? I think Brent would actually agree with all of us when we say I don't think that's very safe at all.
No.
I just cannot get the idea of seeing something that we saw in the movies with Demolition Man yelling self-drive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it was a funny scene, but all in all, to me, it just shows another reason, a good reason why maybe they brought it out a little bit far ahead of their times.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think the American people is ready for this yet.
No, especially on the same roadways. If it was like, something like Disney World, where you see the tram on its own set of rails, and that was something. If they say, okay, we got freight going from St. Louis to Indianapolis, and it's on its own lane or own rails or something like that, that it's separate. But then we go into, well, that's why we have trains and everything else. So I think instead of innovating new things, I think we need to innovate and just maintain and what we got. I mean, we got plenty of bridges and roads that need rebuilt. Why funnel money into something that, like I said, that's just all my personal me sitting here. This is not.
Well, there's one bridge I know I know one bridge in Oden, Indiana that shouldn't have been need rebuilt, but somebody didn't know how to read the low underpass sign.
Yeah,
I'm sure you remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the fact that the bridge said 10-4, or was it the fact it was a 13-ton weight limit?
Yeah, and remember the Paoli Bridge on Christmas Day? The one that survived, it was like the bridge from 1910, and somebody, wait a minute, 3 tons? Yeah, I can roll 80,000 pounds of truck and bottled water across there.
Yeah, okay.
That was
John,
what.
we just about got anything else?
No, I think that's we're pretty much out of time, so we'll probably wrap it up and just hope that folks got a little something out of what we were talking about in terms of protesting or demonstrating, and some methods that you could use that may benefit you if you're going to do so, and proper planning and communication is the key in this, and we want to encourage people to do such demonstrations and to do more of them, to get that message across so that people can understand the importance of the issues that we have in trucking, or the issues in terms of not having a choice in the vaccination. I know a lot of people wanted to hurry up and put this together because there are people that are being forced now that within the federal government and military employees, and the mandate for the 100 employees or more that hasn't gone through yet as far as I know, but that is an up and coming issue if it does go through. I think it's time that we get our government, our federal government, to recognize our constitutional rights once again. We're in a state of being where the president himself says he comes from the corporate state, and if you understand what the corporate state is, it's not a good thing for you and I. Okay, it amounts to basically what fascism was in the 1940s.
As we lead towards the end, I read in the comments Susan's trying to do something down in Kentucky, and I do wish her very well. As part of the TIBM, we do wish her well in what she's trying to get accomplished.
By the way, she's doing that with Truckers United for Freedom.
I saw that.
Yep, she's working with Cheryl. She's been working with Cheryl on that. I've been in touch with her on it. James Tuller's working with her. It looks to me like they have got a good little rally going there. I think they're going to have a good showing. So I'm looking forward to that.
So. And James has been through this a couple of times, so he knows what to expect.
That's what I told her. James is pretty good at this. She should do well with him. So we want to thank you, Brent, for coming on tonight and sharing your thoughts on the matter. And wearing the badge, you kind of resemble a little bit of authority in it. So hopefully people will take it to heart and understand what you're saying is true.
Yep. No, absolutely, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate being back on. And you guys have a great evening. I'm going to hop off here, get the kids to bed. And you guys be safe, and thank you, drivers, for what you do. Have a good night, guys.
All right, thank you.
Well, we appreciate everything you do too, Brent. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Sean, did you have anything you want to close out with, or are we good to go? Or
no, I think we pretty well had a decent show tonight, and Brent was pretty educational on some of these things that he brings up. True friend of the show.
Absolutely. He's a friend of truckers. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Like I said, I hope you got something out of it. Until next time, be safe, be good. If you can't be good, at least be good at it. And we gone.